To all who peruse these pages,
the events contained within these papers may cause shock and awe.
Readers may duck beneath their covers at mentions of cannibalistic crewmates, peek behind their fingers lest they read of eviscerated eyeballs,
run screaming from words of deadly drownings,
or drop their books in shock at violence too vicious to describe.
Do you dare to proceed forward?
Are you ready for the shocking events contained in this very book?
Then prepare yourself to venture beyond the cover and embark upon the journey of the Aegolius.
Epilogue. There are 3 longboats in the water. The sun shines overhead. These longboats are packed to the brim. They sit only a foot. The lip of the longboat sits only a foot above the water's surface. They are that full of crew and cargo. The 3 of you, Dr. Larkin Ridley, Aspen Forsteri, and Darcy Winthrow, are in one of these such longboats. The sun on your face feels like something that was a distant memory, something you hadn't felt in weeks, something I don't know if you expected to feel again. It came suddenly. As Watches said, the morning arrived. The sun did rise this time, unlike it has for weeks at this point. When it did so, or as at the time that it did, that ice field had receded slowly over the course of hours almost. It seemed to melt away, as did that spire holding up the Aegolius into the air. And so the longboats were sent out. As you rowed away, you saw the Aegolius itself, that steel icebreaker, sink into the ocean due to the breach on its side. And I don't know if there was a happiness to see it go, maybe. Dr. Larkin Ridley, your legs are still injured and you have a dull headache, but you are alive, and the light almost pushes away any of those fears that were lingering in your mind, any of that humming in your mind. You don't see shadows and insects and anything. There's just a bit of deep water, which is in and of itself terrifying, but not supernaturally so. Aspen Forsteri, your abdomen has been patched up. Your mind feels clearer now, especially with painkillers in your system, and you sit idly as the boats are rowed. And finally, Darcy Winthrow, you sit quietly thinking over that scene in your head over and over and over again of shooting Liam in the back and watching him fall over that precipice into the ocean. But the sun is up and it is day. It is about midday at this point. It is not immediately after you've set out in the morning. And at this time of day, distant on the horizon, you would see a thin plume of smoke, that coming from some other ship in the local area. It seems to be far, far away, headed straight towards your small cluster of 3 rowboats. Just tell me what's going through your characters' heads in the moments sitting here and waiting for that ship to arrive.
I think I'm thinking about what it's going to be like when we do get back to the mainland, because I came on this ship hoping that I would have, the reputation of having this cruise help, have that success, and it turned out to be a total disaster. And so I'm sort of wondering what returning is going to look like.
Okay.
Is this boat crowded enough for me to be able to do, my own bidding?
Your own bidding?
Or to be able to, let's say, write on a book or something?
Yes, you are able to sit here and write on a book.
Okay.
No one looks to you injured and to row or do anything else, so you can sit there and write if you'd like.
Yeah. I think mostly Aspen is thinking about, because this was not a success. They got up north, but not far enough. But she wants to make sure that she remembers as much as possible. So she's just going to add more stuff on her book, or her notebook that she was writing on before, just so that she has memory of the happenings of the Agolius.
Okay. And for you, Darcy?
I think Darcy's kind of like taking this time to kind of relax again, like jumping into the water and then carrying someone for a long time, kind of working off of the adrenaline itself. I'm pretty sure that they would have like on like warm clothes again, like whatever dry stuff they had before.
Yes.
Like jumping onto the boat and everything. I think she's also kind of just tugging at the orange scarf that she has tied around the forearm and kind of just thinking to herself that she didn't find what she was really looking for, but she's not going to stop searching for it.
Okay. Yes, and I think an important note there is the sun is out, but that does not mean it isn't late in the year far in the north. So it is still chilling out. You sit here for an hour while this ship approaches. Its large hull, impressive. It seems to be some sort of mercantile vessel, although doing what it's doing this far north, you have no such clue. As it pulls past you, you see painted upon the side in a bright red, fresh coat of paint, the perspective as it pulls up along, and members of the crew high above start throwing ropes over, preparing to get people up out of those boats. Ladders, rope ladders they throw over for people to begin climbing, and actual ropes themselves attached to pulleys in order to hoist those rowboats up out of the water. This entire course of events takes the better part of 2 hours, as 80-some crew members in 3 large rowboats, overstuffed evidently, are rescued by this ship. You are assembled on the deck all together with some of the cargo that was scavenged, mostly personal belongings. And slowly, it seems officers aboard the ship are going through the crowd, taking down names. And I think that more than once you all hear your names repeated by adjacent crew members recounting the events, both in terms of the engine, fire, everything that occurred afterwards, your absence during the actual storming of the bridge when one of the crew members, Melvin, was shot, and as well as the shipmaster Wright was stabbed. And after 30 minutes of waiting, one of these officers dressed in naval blues seems to approach the group of you and will say, smoking a cigarette and taking a heavy draw, he will say, "Would you mind if the name's Officer Dawes? That's Dawws. Would you mind if I brought you up to private quarters and asked you a couple of questions? I've got your names from some of the other members of the crew. Another one of the officers going and doing some rounds will join us up there, and we just wanted to flesh out some of the details that seem to be missing about what happened on the Agolius, if that's okay with you all."
Some of the things we might be explaining to you are slightly beyond normal understanding or imagining or perhaps even believing, but I'd be happy to assist as long as I can.
I've been sailing a long time. I heard a lot of tall tales. I can tell facts from fiction, don't you worry. Do the two of you got them? You can bring them up the stairs and just follow close behind if that's all right.
Yep.
And they'll nod quickly to you, Darcy, Winthrow, and you, Aspen, and turn and head up one of the external staircases up to. This is a tall ship, much larger than the Agolius was, up to something like the 3rd story of this bridge house, and into a private room. Not really waiting for the 3 of you to keep up, but you can slowly make your way up the stairs after them. Is there any sort of getting the story straight beforehand, or conversation as you climb up these stairs?
I mean, we all saw what happened out there. I think the main question would be, like, do we tell them everything that happened?
Imagine we are on board with telling these folks the truth about the things we saw and the things we experienced. But if you're referring to what I imagine you are referring to, I'm sure a fall from a very tall height wouldn't be out of the realm of imagination.
Yeah, really, apart from that, I don't think there's anything we need to hide.
Okay. In that case, the three of you, both of you, Aspen, and you, Darcy, assisting Dr. Ridley up these stairs, can follow after Officer Dawes. And you enter into that private room. You hear clanking from behind you as the other officer, Dawes had mentioned, walks up the stairs to come and get some answers to these questions that they might have, these holes in the story. And so we see Officer Dawes, a kind of long-nosed, short-haired man with like a closely, or some slight stubble, but nothing unruly. He looks to be a very like refined man. He seems to be standing here with a leather notebook when the other officer walks in. Ben, what do they look like and what's their name?
So this officer is dressed similarly to Officer Dawes. They're slightly shorter. Mm-hmm. They've got their hair done up with a bun with their hat. Mm-hmm. So it looks like they've just got some short hair. They are slightly pale. They've got some green eyes. And they are human. Mm-hmm.
As is Dawes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and they approach Officer Dawes. Good afternoon, Officer Dawes. Sorry I'm late.
Afternoon.
I had to get myself a cup of coffee.
Of course.
I just finished up there. So are these the three we're supposed to be questioning?
These seem to be the three that everyone was pointing us towards. I think Krells is talking to the light keeper in one of the other rooms, but they should be able to get the stories.
Okay.
The three of you. This is my associate, my fellow officer.
Hello to all of you. My name is Officer Riker. That's with a Y.
Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Hello.
I think we only had a couple of questions for you.
Not many questions. Not many questions.
No, not many at all.
You'll answer them nice and swift, and then you'll be right on your way.
Yeah. What was your role? What were your roles on the Aegolius? Just for the record.
I didn't particularly have a role. I had joined as sort of a adventurer. But I did help around the ship when given orders to help. But I didn't have a title or anything on the ship.
And what about the rest of you?
Well, everyone on the boat has a responsibility to take care of the boat. So we were working to look at icebergs late at night. But I'm mostly there in order to see what really is way up north. I am a professor at Bordeaux University, and I wanted to be able to hopefully write a book or two about it. But clearly that is probably not going to work out.
All right.
But that is my purpose on the boat.
Very well. And as for you?
I'll give you a simple answer here. I was the ship's physician.
Very well. Simple.
Sweet and short, just like how I like my coffee.
You want your coffee to be short? Just a small quantity of it.
Espresso.
Yes. A nice new novelty. You tried it?
No, I have not had the pleasure to.
Okay.
Perks you right up.
We can manage to get you a cup sometime after this, Doctor.
Anyways, we're getting off topic a little bit.
Getting off topic, but it's never too bad to have a bit of rapport with people. We're not trying to interrogate you here. We're just trying to get the story straight. So you should feel comfortable talking to us as well. We were told that the ship ran into an ice floe and one of the engines, two of the engines caught a flame. Is that correct?
Yeah,
yes.
that was the big crash that we had gone through.
Okay.
Had set some of the stuff on fire.
And the crash was so bad that the ship was beyond repairable state and thus was abandoned.
That was the idea. Although they did claim they had sent previous telegrams out, we were uncertain as to the veracity of that claim.
Mm-hmm. Officer Dawes looks over at Officer Riker and has like a bit of a look, like a knowing kind of look, and will continue and say, we did receive telegram communications from the Aegolius during the crash, or immediately following it, I would assume. There was 2 communiques sent out. The first said, I don't feel comfortable repeating the messages. They contain some troubling kind of things that shouldn't be sent over telegram. But
very troubling indeed.
Very troubling. The point being, they were warnings to stay away from the location of the Aegolius. And it wasn't until hours later that we received any communiques that were an SOS. So my question is, do you know why that might have been?
I was the one who sent the SOS. I do not know who sent you the messages about staying away, but a curious thing was when we were trying to fight the fire, what the sprinkler that was supposed to be working to prevent the fire from spreading was not working. So I'm not sure if that is any information that you're interested in.
It's quite valuable.
There might have been some sabotage there because I was helping a fellow crewmate move some explosives that we had on the ship, and the door was unlocked to the room where they had the only key, and one of the plugs on the black powder was opened.
Very well.
One of the boilers exploded as well on the very first day. Before we even set sail, there were problems with the boilers. I had to treat a patient. Whatever was occurring, it was a regular and ongoing attempt to sabotage the crew of this vessel.
Do you believe, with a reasonable conviction, that there's a saboteur amongst the crew of the Aegolius? Amongst the living crew, specifically?
Yes. When we confronted a certain individual aboard the ship, there was some sort of reference made to the fact that that individual was working with others, and one of those we believed to be the captain, and without understanding what the captain was really up to, we understood that to be the truth, and now, knowing that was no longer the case, it is at least my belief that there are at least 2 other individuals on the ship who have some sort of interest in sabotaging it.
It's worrying.
So, based upon that information, you believe the co-conspirators with the captain are still alive and amongst the remaining crew here?
Not with
Correct?
the captain, but with a certain Keeper Devon.
It's a bit worrying, if you ask me. I assume Keeper Vivian will know a bit about that, but do you know what came to be of Keeper Devon?
No.
Not the slightest.
He was not amongst the crew that were rescued.
We did not. We haven't seen Keeper Devon.
Very well. Okay. And then my final questions are, do you know anything about the state of the captain? We heard from a couple of the other crew members that he was ill for the last couple of weeks of the voyage and had not been seen. There was rumors that he injured a crew member. Do you know if that is a true fact? And do you know anything further about his state at the time of the crash?
I don't think Darcy says anything, but I think she does kind of glance over to Dr. Ridley.
The captain unfortunately was murdered, and the person responsible for that death fell to his own demise. We witnessed it ourselves.
Well,
that's certainly a surprise. So did you witness the death of the captain? I hate to pry at troubling memories here, but the details will be important once this ship reaches land once more, and we have to turn our story over and recount the logs of what occurred on the ship. So if you do know information about how the captain met his end, or how he was at the time, because there is just a tinge of curiosity about why the captain was not at his post, why those telegrams were sent in that manner. You understand this line of questioning, I would assume. So if you know anything more about what was happening with the captain, I would implore you to tell us.
The more information, the better.
Of course, the more information, the better.
From the point of the crash, before that, I didn't personally notice anything odd about the captain. We were told, do your business, do what you're told, don't bother the captain. And from the point of the crash, it didn't seem like the captain was well in the head. I happen to believe that he might have been the one sending those telegrams. We were present in the death of the captain, and at that point it was very clear that he was going to hurt the people on the boat.
Was it the isolation, do you think, that did it to him? Or was it something prior to setting off?
Did he even show any signs of illness or anything before he even set sail?
Yes.
His reasoning for coming aboard the ship in the first place appeared to indicate some kind of single-minded obsession with finding some kind of creature in the depths below. That's at least what he told us before he was murdered.
Do you know anything more about that? Some creature in the depths? From our understanding of what the Aegolius was, from just contacting the mainland, it was an Arctic expedition, not one set out to find some creature or some sea monster. Do you have any more information on that by chance, Doctor? Or you, Professor?
I'm going to look at Dr. Larkin and Darcy. If, should I say the nefarious, really weird things? Sort of eye communication.
Aspen makes eye contact with both of you. These kind of questioning, is this the right time to say this kind of eyes?
I give her a nod.
I nod as well.
So before you brought us up here, Professor Larkin here said that there were...
Dr. Larkin.
I'm no professor, but thank you.
Sorry. Dr. Larkin here said that there were things that happened that you may not believe because it's very out there.
Most of it's been pretty straightforward so far, so I assume we're about to get into that.
For multiple times during the expedition, there was humming and voices that people were hearing, telling them to come into the water, telling them to come to them, and they will get their heart's desires or wishes to stay with them and stay in the water with them. And we went through it, and it seemed like it was the same thing that was controlling or influencing the captain.
Officer Dawes makes suspicious eye contact with Officer Riker, almost like a quizzical look is shared.
What do you make of this, Dawes?
So are you telling me that you heard that as well? This was a common thing. If we ask other members of the crew about this, they'll also tell us that this is what they heard. Because you told me to believe you, but if you're telling me that you heard some sort of siren song and that's what caused the captain to send a do not come kind of signal to us and then crash the ship, seems a bit far-fetched.
Seems a little far-fetched, yeah.
Yeah.
The other crew members can vouch for the glowing icebergs we encountered. I cannot say how many of them heard the song as well, but I can at least say that the three of us have. If you ask Mr. Brat Gallant, who was aboard with us when we spotted the first icebergs, you'll probably hear a very similar tale.
We'll make note to go talk to him. Okay. And then a final question, I suppose. And Dawes makes quick eye contact with you, Riker, and will say, how many weeks was it since you left port? Just to get the timeline straight. We've been hearing a similar number from everyone, but I just wanted to check.
It's been
6 weeks, was it not?
6 weeks, give or take a couple of days.
Okay. Dawes makes quick eye contact with you again, Riker, and nods their head. You see them, the three of you see Dawes make a very quick note and will say, very well. That's it for my questions. Rika, did you have anything else that you needed to get clarification on?
I think we heard everything that we can get.
I think that's about it. I would thank the
I think we should go. Think we should go search for Bright Gallant next.
Yeah, we'll go talk to Bright and see if he can validate some of the things you told us. Tell us the same things. I don't assume you'll be lying to us, but it's always good to double check these kind of things. I would thank you, three of you, for your time. If you did want to get some coffee or an espresso, there's a mess hall just down the road. Down the hallway. My apologies. It's been a long night. I hope you're all well. And you can get some good rest tonight. Rika and Dawes will kind of like nod their head as if to come back in the hallway with them.
It was 6 weeks, right?
It should have been if I was keeping track correctly.
Because just the way they asked the question, what did the others say? Maybe we should ask someone?
It doesn't seem like they were on our side.
No, I understand the fantastical nature of everything we were telling them, but they seemed mighty skeptical. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to ask around.
I mean, they saw the ice tower and everything like that.
When the ship showed up, the ice tower had melted as the ice.
But like
the crew all saw it, yeah.
Yeah, the crew must have told them about like the giant ice thing, right?
That must have happened. Why don't we ask around about how long we were at sea? I do not understand why it would be any different than what we said, but it was a very strange question.
And
yeah, something doesn't feel right.
As the three of you have that conversation, the camera shifts and we see officers Dawes and Riker walking in the hallway towards that mess hall, and Dawes quietly will say, I'll go find that Bright Gallant fella they was talking about, but I'm starting to think that we might have to get called to psychiatry wards, get some trucks out for when we arrive back at port.
I think you're right. Like sirens.
I don't understand how people siren songs, tall tales, glowing icebergs. I don't understand how a ship lost for 3 years at sea. Everyone's reporting 6 weeks, and they all look famished, starving to death. I think there was something going wrong on that ship. Some illness spreading around.
Doesn't make any sense.
Some sort of mind rot. We should probably maybe be a bit careful talking to them. I don't know if it's something contagious or in the air, the drinking water or something like that.
I'll make sure the other officers know, just to be careful.
Mm-hmm. Make sure they're not eating any of our food, just in case that's how it can spread around. But I'll go find Bright Gallant and see if he tells us the same thing.
All right, I'll meet up with you later.
And the two officers split, and the perspective sails along back towards the mainland. The officers going around collecting more stories from the crew members, getting the full story together. And then a man with a shaggy brown beard closes his book. Faramel lets out a deep sigh. The snow still comes down around him in this open kind of cavern workshop, and he'll look forwards, kind of with a frown on his face, and say, did you hear any of that? Can you hear me at all? Are you awake yet? And he'll like kick at something that you don't see with his foot. It makes a kind of glassy tink sound, and he sighs again. And will go, I really wish you were more talkative company. And get up and walk back over and put his book on the shelf, leaving some large piece of ice lying on a chair in the corner of his workshop alone as he goes back to his business. And that's the end of Weenie Hollow this year. If you enjoyed this, please leave a rating and review on our Apple Podcasts. That's very appreciative, or we'd really appreciate that kind of stuff. You can follow us on social media at Trials and Trebs on Instagram and Twitter for teasers, art, posts of the like. If you make art and want us to see it, you can send it to us on there. We love seeing things that people make. We have a Discord server. You can find the link to join it in the description. I'm sure you'll find some people chatting about these episodes. And then, of course, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/trialsandtrebs. If you want to throw a couple of dollars our way, we are very appreciative of that as well. This podcast takes a bit of energy to produce, especially something like this. It's a lot of fun to make it, but it takes a bit of time. And if you enjoy it, we would appreciate if you enjoyed it and can afford to do so, we would appreciate some financial support from
I'm
you.
asking if we played for 10 hours for this one.
Probably.
We've been playing for 6 weeks.
Oh my
Playing for a
gosh, 3
long
years.
time. Yes. Anyways, I hope you'll all tune in next week for some regular Trials and Trebs.
Back to your
I hope you all
regularly
enjoyed
scheduled
it.
program.
Yeah. Anyways, have a good Halloween. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good spooky night.
Spooky.
Ooh, it was 3 years.
Oh no, a bat!